What's up, everyone? My name is Maximilian, and you're watching episode 14 of Street Fighter X Tekken, The Online Warrior. What's up, folks? Once again, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Street Fighter X Tekken, The Online Warrior. It has been some time since the last episode of this game, since not a lot has happened except the big events that took place at EVO, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So to give you guys a brief heads up, Street Fighter X Tekken is going to be changing drastically over the next few weeks or so. Essentially, at the end of July, we're going to get a pretty big DLC patch, and this came from EVO, and this came from the Capcom panel at EVO, and they announced that they're no longer going to be waiting till the fall to release all of the 12 characters, I think it's 12, essentially the DLC characters that were on the disc that essentially made everybody hate Street Fighter X Tekken to no end, minus the fact that it's got some really odd gameplay quirks to it. They announced that these characters, as well as several other DLC items and balance adjustments, are going to be released on the same day, which is July 31st, so we're finally going to see all of those characters we've been hearing and seeing like hacked videos about for the past like 6 months, or I think it would just be about 6 months now. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So what the title of this video is insinuating is that is it too little too late? The big problem is that, or it's not essentially a problem, it's just kind of odd that they chose to price it at this, is that these DLC characters and this adjustment patch, this entire thing is going to cost $20. Now, the reason the characters were on the disc the whole time, as Capcom has explained, is because they wanted everyone to be able to fight up against the characters that would be, released at a later time. So you don't have to download things, you don't have to go through different versions, you don't have to download, bandwidth and all this stuff. However, it put them in a much different situation that ended up being much worse than it did any good. And now it's to the point where we're getting all these new characters. There's a bunch of balance adjustments, which I will go over with in a second, the ones that they've announced. But with the new characters at this point, does anybody really care? Now, I was playing some Street Fighter X Tekken recently. The online community for the game is still rather robust. It's about just as big, if not a little bit bigger, than Street Fighter 4 as it appears on the top end. But for the majority of people, is it too little too late? At this point down the line, with Street Fighter X Tekken getting so much bad press and a few people still enjoying the game, but the majority of the competitive scene really disliking it, are these 12 characters even good enough to sustain interest in the game anymore? I mean, granted, on a personal level, I'm kind of attached to a few of the characters that they added into it. I think it's really cool that they added Elena into it from Third Strike. She's a brand new character that you've never seen a 3D model of before. And a few of the Tekken side of the cast has me really interested to play as well, most notably Lars. So I will definitely be getting my hands on this. I will definitely be doing ongoing coverage of the 12 new characters, but I'm kind of curious because the Street Fighter X Tekken engine for myself is kind of running a little bit thin. I don't know what it's about the game, whether it's the time issues, whether it's the fact that you see the same combos over and over and over again. It's just something. It's just something that's weird with this game. I still enjoy it, and I actually find it more fun than like the Street Fighter 4 series, even though I've been recently revisiting Street Fighter 4. I still really like Street Fighter X Tekken, and I hope these 12 new characters does do something to kind of reinvigorate the competitive scene, or at least the scene of people that might be interested in Street Fighter X Tekken, because there's a lot of content. But the $20 price tag is the next big thing that really is upsetting a lot of people. And I'm going to kind of agree on this one. I think $20 to ask for something that was already on the disc and that upset a lot of people, like a lot of people already, is something that probably should have been reconsidered for maybe a lower price tag. If it was free, I think that would have been a way to reconciliate the entire thing. But as a business, I think they look at the amount of money they put into designing all the other characters, like the 12 new characters, and they pretty much figured we can't give it away for free. I mean, it sucks for the consumers at the same time, but it's kind of the business practice with DLC nowadays, and it is a little disappointing. But I do wish it was like $14 or it was $15, $14.99. It seems to be set priced right around $20 on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, and a lot of people think that is fairly steep, but nonetheless, I'm still really excited about the characters, and I'm still really excited about these other balance adjustments. Now, the next thing that they were talking about, which kind of goes into the too little too late thing, is the timer. When we were at the panel, people were being, the folks at Capcom were being asked by the community and members during a Q&A session about how they want certain things changed, and one of the most notable things was the timer. Now, what they responded with was that the timer being increased is something that you can do. It seems like a quick and easy fix, but it doesn't really, it doesn't really solve the situation. What they need to do is they need to adjust the gameplay mechanics. They need to adjust the game itself so that the timer does not become an issue. Instead of fixing the timer directly, I don't think that really solves the problem, because the timer lasts just as long as like a game like Street Fighter 4. That it's an issue because you have two characters now that occupy that entire timer. However, you guys know the ordeal. What they don't want to do is just increase the time. They actually want to tackle it from the ground level up, and hopefully they'll be able to do that and give us a much more polished experience in the very end for Street Fighter X Tekken. But aside from that, they were being asked a lot of questions regarding like the future of DLC characters, of what else they might have planned for the Street Fighter X Tekken series. And from what it sounds like, they're really gauging how the performance of this DLC works. So if there's going to be any more characters added to the Street Fighter X Tekken series, which would be absolutely crazy, because like, if you guys are aware, Street Fighter X Tekken is a game with a ton of characters, and the fact that it has so many characters, I think, is kind of rough from an early standpoint of a fighting game. So nonetheless, it is pretty interesting. The next big news piece that came along with this was the fact that they were going over a few of the more severe like balance adjustments they're going to be making to this game. Some of the stuff that really plagued a lot of people, some of the stuff that really upset how you use the character, upset people how you can get away with certain things, most notably airborne hurricane kicks, standing jabs, and stuff like that. The most notable ones that I remember reading was that they were talking about Ryu and Ken's airborne hurricane kicks, most notably those two. And now they're going to change the hitbox, they're going to change the amount of frame advantage. I think it was at 11 frames at first, and now it's going to go to a maximum of like 6 frames. The other one they were talking about was Rolento's standing light punch, and his light punch is no longer going to be like positive 4 frames, and it's going to be even. It's going to be right at 0, so you no longer can do walk forward pressure with Rolento's standing light punch, which is a good thing. I mean, that's a really good thing. I don't see that many Rolentos, but the Rolento was the team that recently took Evo, so he's a completely ridiculous character, and he's really good. The other one they were fixing was Ryu's donkey kick, and before, the donkey kick actually put Ryu positive, and this was really difficult, especially the light one. Now it's actually going to be -6 on block, so that's really crazy. That means that Ryu cannot consistently apply pressure with ending at the donkey kick. The other stuff that they were talking about was like Raven, and they were saying how Raven can no longer, how he would do his like Dudley scoop, and he would be able to sweep you up like 3 to like 6 times or something like that. He can do it a lot, and it would do a lot of damage if you got just into a raw combo with it. They were saying that this is no longer possible, that you can get it a maximum of 3 times, and that's it. And they were also saying that Raven's standing light punch is going to get heavily adjusted, and that's going to be something that will probably change how people play Raven. What's funny is that they didn't really go into some of the other characters that people have had issues with, most notably Hugo. Like, everyone seems to still really hate Hugo. Hugo's an insanely good character. He's still really good. If he touches you, it hurts to no end. And a lot of the folks that still play Street Fighter X Tekken, from what I understand, still have a problem with the character, and they didn't really mention much to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if, it's funny that Hugo's damage kind of represents him in Street Fighter X Tekken as actually having appropriate damage output. He actually does decent damage because of the game's timer and stuff like that. Usually if you go up against like a Hugo and Hugo that know what they're doing, the game ends with like, more than 50 seconds a lot of the time. So there's a lot of stuff that I would like to see adjusted to this game. I'd like to see some really big changes. Like, I'm not talking like small character balance adjustments and stuff like that. Like, really big changes to Pandora. Really big changes to how the overall mechanics of the game work. Changes to the rolling system. Like, I would love it if you could be thrown out of a roll now. Like, I don't understand why that's still, not possible. It's something that still bugs me with Street Fighter X Tekken. However, there is stuff to be desired. Like, when I play the game, it is kind of getting old and stale from this point forward, but I still really enjoy it. And it's kind of hard to not let the community like rub off on you, Even if you like Street Fighter X Tekken, it's kind of hard to like shake every single person you talk to saying how much they hate and despise something, even though you kind of like it. And that's kind of the boat that I've been in, and that's why I'm going to keep making Street Fighter Cross Tekken videos, because no matter how much people keep saying they dislike the game, I enjoy playing it sometimes, even though I do feel a little bit of exhaustion when it comes to SFxT's system every once in a while. And I just would prefer to play something else like Street Fighter 4, since I've been revisiting Street Fighter 4. It actually feels good, and it's fairly fun. So, some of the stuff I'd like to see for Street Fighter Cross Tekken are those things that I mentioned. The other big thing that I would love them to tackle, and that they were actually mentioning during the panel, was Pandora. Now, they said that during this initial patch phase, that Pandora is not going to get adjusted or patched. The big issue with Pandora is that it's useless. Even if you include the gem setups and everything like that, the usability for it is still very limited as far as how much you can actually apply it into a strategy. For anyone that actually uses Pandora strategically in a fight, like, more power to you, because it's hard to do that, man. It's not an easy feat. And when you see somebody actually do it, it looks really damn cool. But I think that'll actually come later on when the game gets adjusted for, like, the damage ratios and how hit stun and damage scaling take place in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, because Street Fighter Cross Tekken, for you guys that don't know, damage scaling is this thing that happens when you have multiple hits in a combo. The later hits in the combo get cut down by like 50% of what their normal damage would do, and when the combo gets longer and longer, it gets more severe and more severe, essentially to the end of a point of to the ending point of a combo. If you did a super, it's like you did nothing, and it would have been better just to save the meter. Which I think that should probably be adjusted. And that's the thing, is that low health fighting games tend to be some of the more popular fighting games. Fighting games that actually have you at a risk a lot of the time, and you have to be very careful about your decision making, are the ones that end up being very popular amongst the community. Games like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is a perfect example of that. You're always on the border's edge of losing a character, because if you get touched, you're dead by anybody that's really good at the game, and they can always come back with an X Factor, you know, and take the whole thing. And that's one thing I've always liked about Street Fighter Cross Tekken. It doesn't have the comeback mechanic, but that could be one of the big reasons that it's not really well received amongst the community, is that it doesn't have any hype to it. Like any of these, you don't see comebacks very often because the characters have so much health. And even with games like Street Fighter 4, the character life bars are pretty big, but they're equal in size to a single character in Street Fighter Cross Tekken. It might sound like I'm complaining. I'm just trying to take the facts and analyze things for how the community is perceiving the game, and I can definitely sympathize with a lot of you guys that are sick of SFxT and don't like the game, but I can also sympathize with some of the guys that enjoy it, like myself, and actually still have fun playing it, and I'm actually looking forward to the future of the game. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is it too late for Street Fighter Cross Tekken? Should they just, like, push this game under a table and forget about the remainder of the DLC, forget about the patches, and just move on to something else? I mean, if they are even moving on to something else. A lot of us thought that we were going to get a fighting game announcement at EVO that wasn't Marvel vs. Capcom Origins, like a new big fighting game at EVO or Comic-Con. And Darkstalkers didn't happen. You know, a Capcom All-Stars game is definitely not in the works, as Capcom's VP has recently said, so I think we're going to have to learn to play Street Fighter Cross Tekken and kind of accept that this is the latest Street Fighter we have, and I don't know if there's going to be much more else on the horizon. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is it too late for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, or are you going to give it another chance when this balanced patch comes out on July 31st with all these characters? And are you even going to buy it? Like, you don't actually have to buy it, is a big thing. You can still play the game online and fight up against all those other characters, you just can't select them. So, you know, that's the big reason they had the DLC on there. And nonetheless, I'm going to wrap this one up. In the next episode, we're going to take a bit of play-by-play information. We're going to go through some online ranked games, and I'm going to try to use maybe some few other characters to try to give a little bit of variety to Street Fighter Cross Tekken, since you guys have seen a lot of Ken and Ogre over the past few weeks, and if not a month. And it's just because I love those characters so much. If you guys also want to see an open lobby once again for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, please let me know. But until then, my name is Maximilian, and I'll see you guys next time.
fight? Get ready for losers, packet scrubs! Doom's coming to town!